for us at this office, listening to children and young people is part and parcel of what we do. I would love to see that to be the norm elsewhere as well.
Young people have such a different insight and such a different experience that they have a right, and we as a society have a responsibility to listen to them.
So welcome to another New South Wales Through Their Eyes. I'm particularly excited because this time we are working with some of the young people in our office to tell a bit about your stories and the work that you do here at ACYP. So I'm very, very excited to welcome Liam and Meherun from ACYP. Welcome, guys.
Hi, Zoe.
Hi, Zoe.
Hi, thank you for joining me on this particular episode. So let's start with you telling us a little bit about yourselves. Liam, do you want to go first?
Sure. So I am Liam. I work at ACYP. I've been here for 2.5 years and I work in the policy team.
Brilliant. And Meherun?
I'm Meherun. I've been here 1.5 years now, and I'm on the participation team as participation officer.
Brilliant. Now, you both left out some of the pieces of information that I know about you. So, Liam and Meherun, what have you studied and what are some of the things that you are particularly interested in?
So I studied a Bachelor of Theology Honours Bachelor of Social Work, focusing on working with disadvantaged groups in social work and the Judaic religions in theology. And I am interested in a number of things. Probably the one that Zoe wants me to raise the most is swimming. I am currently training to swim the English Channel in the not too distant future.
That is amazing. Amazing. And Meherun?
I studied a Bachelor of Commerce and Arts, and I majored in HR and Development Studies. And in terms of the Development Studies is the area that I guess I've always been passionate about since I was in school and learnt about it, which is my area of interest. And should I say a little bit about what else I like to do?
Well, I was fishing for stories about your niece, but you can tell us all the things that you're interested in.
Yeah. So on the weekends, I like to do crafts and baking. I like exploring new places, and my favourite thing to do at the moment is play with my baby niece.
Yes, very sweet. So 2 very different things that you've studied there, you know, in terms of subjects, but also interest areas. How does that then lead you both to be at ACYP? I mean, Meherun, maybe talk to us a bit about how HR and all that leads to, and development studies probably make some sense, but for everyone, how you can come across doing those things and end up here at ACYP.
So finishing up uni, I was looking for some experience, and it kind of went different ways to what I had expected, to be honest. I spent a bit of time volunteering and spending some time at my family business. I actually worked in HR for a while to give that a go to see how I liked it. And whilst I liked the skills that I learned, I happened to be in an insurance company, which was good, but it wasn't what I was passionate about. And then I came across an advertisement for this role on the participation team, and it seemed like a great fit for me because it was a role where I could use my skills, but more importantly, what I was really drawn to was what we did as an organisation, and the role that the office played in raising the voices of young people and taking it to stakeholders, and actually being part of a system where you get to be a part of the process of change, which is really quite amazing and a privilege to be a part of.
Yeah, great. And from theology to ACYP?
So when I finished at uni, I decided that I probably wanted to go more down the social work path of my 2 degrees. So I worked for a torture and trauma agency, counselling young refugees who had returned or travelled to Australia from conflict areas. And in that role, I started writing policies and programs for young people, which worked with the Department of Education primarily. And from that, I saw an advertisement for a 5-week internship with the New South Wales government. So I applied, and I was fortunate enough to be allocated to ACYP. And at the end of the 5 weeks, they sort of just kept me, and here I am.
And we are grateful for that. We are grateful for both of you kind of responding to those things. And I guess the reason for that question is sometimes it might think like you had to have a clear path to come here, but actually the opportunity here is so varied that we look for people with all kinds of diversity and background and experience. What is one of the best things about working here?
I'm happy to take that one. That's an easy question. The best thing is when we get to talk to children and young people. For my team, that means when we, whether we're going out to a school or we're holding a big event and we run our consultations, and you get to just sit and listen to young people feeding back and giving their insights. And it shouldn't surprise me, but every time I'm blown away with the incredible eloquence and thought and insight that they can provide. And just listening is like, it gives you hope every time, because you're blown away with what they say and you're like, yes, it shouldn't surprise me, but I'm so impressed with what they tell you, and you'll learn something new every time. And that getting to be a part of my work is quite incredible.
I think for me, one of the best things is taking what children and young people have said, particularly to the participation team, and then sort of our role as a policy team is to make those suggestions and those recommendations in a language that government and business understand. And as Meherun said, so often we don't have to do anything with them because children are so articulate and so sure of what they need and what they can give to their society. But probably the best part is taking what they say and then presenting that to government through the advocate and through the other mechanisms that the office uses, and then seeing government and business and the community respond.
Yeah, I agree. And whilst we touched on this earlier off camera, is whilst technically, Meherun, you might not fall in the young age bracket, although you're 26 and you're younger than me and you are young, and Liam, you are 25, I think also your presence in the office is so important for exactly that reason. You know, the diversity of thought and the ability to have open, challenging conversations, but also because you're both hearing different perspectives and reading different things, there is this real, I hope, collaborative effort when we're putting things together where you're informed by children and young people, but also by your own thinking and your own experiences. What is something in the work that we have done or that you've seen that you think that there still might be opportunity for it to work better for children and young people in New South Wales?
I think that's a really difficult question, but I think we as an opportunity have the real privilege of going out and talking to young people. Something I would love to see done better by government, but also just by wider society, is not second guessing young people. We often hear, or I would say we have heard in the past that children and young people are hard to reach. They're young, so they don't have the insight or the experiences to contribute. And what we've seen as an office, and I think through some of my experiences, that's just not true. Young people have such a different insight and such a different experience that they have a right, and we as a society have a responsibility to listen to them. So I'd love to see us as a society not second guess that, and really encourage all the young people we know to take as many opportunities to have their voice heard as possible.
I think what I would similarly like to see is very much what Liam has talked about. For us at this office, listening to children and young people is part and parcel of what we do. I would love to see that to be the norm elsewhere as well. So for us, what we hear a lot of the time is that young people do have incredible insights and thoughts and opinions, and they often feel that they're not heard. And I would love to see not just us, but the community and organisations and everyone else who also works with young people to have that be embedded in how they work, that the conversation with young people is consistent and always there, and that it's not a surprise or out of the ordinary when young people are consulted, or part and parcel of throughout the creation process of whatever it is that you do. And I would love to see that to be the norm rather than the exception.
Yeah, great. And you might have touched it there in both of your responses, but since working here, has your view of the world changed, or any of the opinions, or I guess some of your own thinking that you had before you took on this role, has any of that changed since working at ACYP?
Yes, definitely. Lots of different ways. I guess the first thing that comes to mind is I still like to think of myself as a young person, but even
you are, you're 26.
But even when I was younger than now, I've always been passionate about different issues, social justice in particular. But I've had the privilege to be around other young people who do have a voice. And unfortunately, sometimes you do speak up and you're not sure where it's going or what's going to happen with it or how you are able to change that. And coming here, twofold ways where it's made me more optimistic. One is that there is people and organizations and leaders and stakeholders who do want to listen to young people, which is great. Everyone needs to be on board to be able to create communal change like that. And of course, when you listen to young people and you see their hope and their thoughts and their new insights, that there is a new generation of young people who want to create change, and it makes me hopeful for what is to come.
Yeah, great. Pam?
Absolutely, exactly what Meherun said. But I also think for me, I've been fortunate enough to see a lot of different experiences that I wouldn't have seen. So as an office, we've done consultations in juvenile justice, we've done consultations with a whole variety of disability services. And while I knew those experiences existed, I think being confronted by them has really changed the way that I perceive those experiences. And I think often I would have thought that those experiences are just so different to my own, so I've got nothing in common with the young people in those situations. Whereas, as Meherun has said, we all have such reason to be optimistic, because even though we all do come from such different experiences, it's our experiences as young people that unite us. That sounds corny and cliche, but I think it's really true.
Yeah, and do you think that maybe, I was going to ask you, what is something that you think people don't know about this office that you would like people to know about the Office of the Advocate for Children and Young People? Is that something that, that we're not necessarily all from the same cloth or anything like that, but actually there's a variety of experiences and that openness and transparency of discussion and what you can bring to the table? But is there something about this office that you think that children and young people of New South Wales should know that they might not know about the Office of the Advocate for Children and Young People?
I think that's certainly part of it, but I also think maybe something that's less known is, and this isn't to focus on the staff, but it's to the point you were saying before, even as a staff team, we come from such diverse backgrounds. Some of us have HR backgrounds, some of us have allied health backgrounds, some of us are comms backgrounds. And if we as a team can sort of come together and produce the voice of children and young people in a variety of ways, then I think children and young people should know that they can approach us, and we do want to hear from them. We recently did a consultation on disaster, and we did face-to-face consultations, we did submissions. So even the way the office operates in a whole different medium of connecting, I think I'd want children and young people to know that they can and they should approach us, and they should feel comfortable to do that.
Yeah, great. Meherun?
Our office represents all children and young people in New South Wales, and I feel that everyone from different backgrounds are represented and are able to come forward. And similar to what Liam was talking about, the groups and young people that we have engaged with have, for me personally as well, very much, I've learned so much about so many others' different experiences, and the way that our office is able to capture such diverse backgrounds and be able to bring them together and have this shared experience, which I truly believe everyone in the office every day through what we do is still always continuously learning. For any young people out there, that they are able to come to us or engage with us in a way that is comfortable for them, and for us it's still a learning experience as well by how we engage with different experiences and how we can appropriately make that a safe space for everyone to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we have to challenge ourselves to make sure that we are constantly being challenged, that we are going into different spaces, that we are working where children and young people want us to work with them in the way that they want us to work with them, and that we are making sure that we are consistently representing all children and young people in New South Wales. So I think both of those are incredibly good things for people to know. Now, what is something that you would like to say to the children and young people of New South Wales? Although you do get the option in this, because let's class you as young, you can also say something to the adults of New South Wales if that would be your preference. But let's start with children and young people of New South Wales. What's something you would like to say to them?
I'm going to steal a bit of a corny line from Disney, because I'm a Disney fan, and I think this applies to children and adults as much as each other, and that is, to have courage and be kind. And for young people, courage is having the courage to stand up for what you believe in, for being willing to challenge the status quo. And that's very difficult, especially when you are young, where you see the world the way that it is, and trying to change it in a way that you want it to be better is incredibly difficult. But in that process, you have to remember to also always be kind, to realize that everyone you're engaging with, even if there are people who you very much disagree with or things you're unhappy with, they're still human, just like you. And you need to remember to be kind, especially in a time where I think online engagements, it's very easy to kind of distance yourself from that and realize that these are people just like yourself. And this again applies to adults as well, to ensure that whatever it is that you're doing, you will get much further and be able to engage much better when, even if it seems hard or people aren't being kind to you, you in turn still want to be kind to them.
And Liam?
I think for me it would be to be present. I think, as Meherun is saying, we have such opportunity in the online world and in the environments that we find ourselves to participate in discussion, to participate in like agenda setting, and whether you're the type of child or young person who really, really wants to get involved and, really advocate and be the change that you want to see, that's great. But also if you just want to, sit back and listen to different opinions, as Meherun is saying, and just sort of learn from others' experience so that you understand better. Just be comfortable at whatever level. If you want to be really active, that's great. If you just want to sit back and listen, that's also fantastic. Don't feel like you always have to be this really inspirational, world-changing person, because in your own world and to your own people and your own relationships, you are an inspiration.
Yeah, that's incredible, because I think one of the reasons that we really wanted to do this panel, whether you both know it or not, is because exactly what you said is the way that we feel about you in the office in terms of the work that you do and the presence that you have and the way that you're doing that. And so owning your own spaces in that, I think, is so incredibly important. And so both of those, be kind is something that everyone needs to carry on them, that being the first way of approaching a conversation and understanding that walking in someone's shoes, there might be a whole bunch of stuff going on for them. So they're both really wonderful things for us all to take away. Now, what's something that you would say to your younger self, Liam?
I think to my younger self, don't plan so much for the future. As Meherun and I were both saying, I don't think either of us either planned to be at ACYP, it's just sort of happened. Mm-hmm. And I won't speak for Meherun, but I'm very thankful that it did. So I think for my younger self, don't be so concerned that, by 22 you're going to have a full-time job, and then by 24 you're going to do this, and 26 you're going to do this. Just take what opportunities are given to you and do the best that you can. Great.
Meherun?
Liam, I believe we think very alike. What I would love to tell my younger self is, if you've made a plan, it's okay if it doesn't go to plan. I think similar to Liam, there was a way I thought things were going to pan out, or I wanted things to happen, and they didn't, but I'm so glad that they didn't, because often the things that are unaccounted for are much better than you could have planned. But also I've realised getting older that things going to plan is more the exception than the norm. So learning to being adaptable to change, and I'm sure given the times that we are in, there's always something that you don't see coming your way, and what matters more is how you react in those situations, and just learning to adjust and going easy on yourself, that you are where you're supposed to be, and just while you're there, make the most of it, try your best, and that's all that's asked of you. So there's no need to panic or no need to freak out. You're meant to be where you are.
Absolutely. And sometimes I just energetically say yes and then figure it out after. So I think that's okay. And I think, for children and young people, the ability to have a crack, be present, be kind, all of those things, but be patient with yourself and know that it doesn't have to be the path that's on paper, but that there's lots of opportunities out there to do things differently and to shine brightly. So I know that this wasn't a comfortable thing, that you guys didn't necessarily love the idea of doing a panel, but I'm very grateful that you both agreed to be a part of it, because I think it's important for us as an office to showcase the incredible people and talents and skills and kindness that we have in our staff here, and all the great work that you are doing for children and young people across New South Wales. So let me say thank you for the great work that you do, for participating in that, and for sharing the voices of children and young people so boldly in the work that you do. Thank you both.
Thank you,
Thank
Zoe.
you.
No worries.